Let me begin with a question that may shock you a little. When everything is taken away, who are you? When the noise of the world fades, when titles fall, when people are busy with their own lives, what truly remains with you? We spend our entire youth building relationships, chasing approval and fearing loneliness. But old age quietly asks a deeper question. Have you learned to live with yourself? This is not a depressing thought. It is a powerful awakening. Here is a hook we must all face. Everyone who comes into your life is temporary. Friends drift, children grow busy, partners may leave or pass away. This is not cruelty, this is the law of life. The biggest mistake we make is expecting permanent emotional security from temporary arrangements. Old age is not the time to complain about who stayed and who left. It is the time to discover inner independence. When your happiness depends on others, fear controls you. When your happiness comes from within, peace follows you. From childhood, we are taught directly or indirectly to seek safety in people. We are told that friends will always stand by us, that family will never leave us, that someone will be there to understand us when life becomes difficult. While these beliefs offer comfort in early years, they can quietly become emotional traps later in life. When we turn people into our emotional insurance, we hand over control of our inner stability to circumstances we cannot manage. Emotional dependence may feel like connection, but in reality, it creates vulnerability that surfaces more strongly with age. Life moves in chapters, and every individual is writing a different story. Friends who once shared daily laughter eventually become absorbed in their own responsibilities. Children grow into adults with careers, families, and pressures of their own. Even the most devoted relationships are affected by health, distance, time, and mortality. When our sense of worth and happiness is tied to how often someone calls, visits, or listens to us, disappointment becomes inevitable. Emotional independence is not about detachment or coldness. It is about resilience. It is the ability to remain steady even when external support fluctuates. Many people confuse emotional independence with isolation. In truth, they are opposites. An emotionally independent person can enjoy relationships deeply without clinging to them. They can accept love without fear of loss and face absence without bitterness. Dependence, on the other hand, quietly breeds fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear of being replaced, fear of being alone. Over time, this fear transforms into silent expectations, and expectations, when unmet, turn into resentment. This emotional cycle is one of the most common causes of suffering in later years. As age advances, the world naturally becomes less responsive. Energy slows, social circles shrink, and attention shifts elsewhere. Those who rely heavily on others for emotional balance often experience this phase as abandonment, even when no one intends harm. The pain does not come from being alone. It comes from believing that one cannot be okay without someone else's presence. Emotional independence offers a different experience. It allows a person to see change as a natural rhythm rather than a personal rejection. Building emotional independence does not happen overnight, nor does it begin in old age. It is cultivated through self-awareness, reflection, and inner discipline over time. It involves learning how to sit with one's thoughts without panic, how to process emotions without immediate validation, and how to find meaning beyond constant interaction. A person who has learned to be emotionally self-sufficient carries a quiet confidence. Their peace does not depend on attention, and their dignity does not depend on approval. There is also a deep sense of freedom that comes with emotional independence. When you no longer need others to constantly reassure you, you speak more honestly and live more authentically. Relationships become lighter and healthier because they are no longer burdened by unspoken demands. People often feel more comfortable around someone who does not emotionally cling because such a presence is grounded and secure. In later years, this inner stability becomes a powerful source of dignity. When health weakens or circumstances change, emotionally independent individuals adapt with grace. They appreciate companionship when it comes, but they do not crumble when it is absent. Their emotional world is anchored within, not scattered across other people's behavior. This inner anchoring is what allows aging to feel like a phase of reflection rather than regret. Ultimately, emotional independence is an act of self-respect. It acknowledges that while relationships enrich life, they should not be responsible for holding it together. When you stop treating people as emotion, insurance, you stop living in fear of loss. You begin to experience relationships as gifts rather than necessities, and life itself becomes calmer, more balanced, and deeply fulfilling. From the moment a child is born, parents begin to invest not only time, effort, and resources, but also invisible expectations. These expectations are rarely spoken aloud, yet they quietly take shape over the years. Many parents believe that their sacrifices will eventually be repaid through emotional support, companionship, or security in later life. While this belief is understandable, it often leads to deep disappointment. Children are not a retirement plan. They are individuals with their own paths, responsibilities, and limitations. When parents attach their future emotional or practical security to their children, they place a burden on the relationship that it was never meant to carry. Modern life has changed the structure of families and responsibilities. Careers demand mobility, time, and constant adaptation. Financial pressures, health concerns, and social expectations leave little room for anyone to fully devote themselves to another generation. Even the most loving children may struggle to balance their own lives while meeting parental expectations. When parents expect consistent attention, care, or presence as a form of return on investment, they unintentionally create guilt and stress for their children and dissatisfaction for themselves. This mindset often turns love into a transaction. Sacrifice begins to feel like leverage, and care becomes conditional. Statements such as, "After all we did for you," may never be spoken, but they are often felt. Over time, this unspoken emotional debt can erode the warmth of the relationship. Instead of closeness, it creates distance. Instead of gratitude, it creates pressure. True parental love thrives when it is free of conditions, not when it carries the weight of future expectations. Letting go of the idea that children will be your support system in old age does not mean rejecting family or emotional connection. It means understanding the difference between hope and dependency. Hope allows space for love to flow naturally. Dependency demands outcomes. When expectations dominate, even genuine acts of care may feel insufficient. When expectations are released, even small gestures feel meaningful. Preparing for later life requires foresight beyond emotional assumptions. Financial planning, health awareness, social adaptability, and inner strength are responsibilities that belong to each individual. Relying solely on children for security ignores the unpredictability of life. Illness, geography, personal struggles, or unexpected circumstances can limit even the best intentions. When parents take responsibility for their own stability, relationships with children become lighter, more respectful, and more joyful. There is also a deeper emotional maturity in accepting that children do not belong to us in the way we sometimes believe. They pass through our lives for guidance, values, and support, but they are not extensions of our unfulfilled dreams or future needs. When parents release control and expectations, they allow their children to grow freely. This freedom often strengthens the bond rather than weakening it. Parents who maintain independence in old age often experience greater self-respect and peace. They engage with their children as companions rather than dependents. Conversations become richer, interactions more genuine, and time together more meaningful. There is no silent calculation of who did what or who owes whom. Love remains clean, unburdened by emotional accounting. When children choose to care, support, or stay connected, it becomes a gift rather than an obligation. Gratitude replaces entitlement, and appreciation replaces demand. This shift in perspective transforms old age from a phase of waiting and disappointment into a phase of dignity and acceptance. Life feels fuller when it is not lived in anticipation of repayment. Understanding that children are not a retirement plan is not a loss, it is a release. It frees parents from unrealistic expectations and frees children from invisible pressure. In that freedom, relationships become authentic, resilient, and deeply human, allowing love to exist as it was always meant to, without conditions, without demands, and without fear. Loneliness is often described as one of the greatest fears of human life, especially as people grow older. It is spoken of as if it were an unavoidable punishment, something to be escaped at all costs. Yet loneliness itself is not what causes suffering. The real discomfort arises from resistance to being alone and the emotional attachment to constant companionship. When solitude is misunderstood, it feels like emptiness. When it is understood, it becomes a space of clarity, self-connection, and emotional maturity. From an early age, society conditions individuals to remain surrounded by people. Silence is often associated with sadness, and being alone is mistaken for being unwanted. This conditioning follows many into adulthood and later life, where the reduction of social interaction is seen as a loss rather than a transition. When relationships, routines, or roles change with age, the absence of noise is quickly labeled as loneliness. The mind, untrained in solitude, begins to panic and search for distractions, validation, or emotional reassurance. Attachment plays a central role in this discomfort. When happiness becomes dependent on external presence, the absence of people feels like deprivation. Attachment creates a belief that peace can only exist through interaction, approval, or shared activity. As these external sources naturally decrease over time, the individual experiences restlessness and emotional vulnerability. The pain does not come from being alone. It comes from the belief that one cannot function or feel whole without others. Solitude, when approached with awareness, offers a different experience. It provides the opportunity to listen to one's own thoughts without interruption and to observe emotions without immediately reacting to them. In solitude, there is no need to perform, explain, or impress. This absence of external demand allows the mind to settle. Over time, this stillness becomes a source of strength rather than discomfort. The individual begins to realize that their sense of self does not depend on constant engagement. Those who learn to embrace solitude develop a deeper understanding of themselves. They become familiar with their inner dialogue, values, fears, and aspirations. This familiarity reduces anxiety because nothing within feels foreign or overwhelming. Emotional independence grows naturally in such an environment. The person no longer seeks constant reassurance because they have learned to provide it internally. In later years, this ability becomes especially valuable. As social circles shrink and routines simplify, individuals who fear solitude may feel abandoned or irrelevant. In contrast, those who are comfortable with their own company experience this phase as peaceful rather than painful. They engage with others by choice, not necessity. Their interactions become more meaningful because they are not driven by emotional hunger. Solitude also encourages acceptance. Without the distraction of constant conversation, individuals reflect more deeply on life's changes. They begin to understand that impermanence is not a failure, but a natural rhythm. This understanding softens resistance and reduces emotional struggle. What once felt like loss begins to feel like space. Space to breathe, think, and simply be. There is also a quiet dignity in solitude. It allows a person to age without desperation for attention or fear of being forgotten. They do not measure their worth by the number of visitors or phone calls. Their sense of value is internal and stable. This inner stability often attracts more genuine connections, as people are drawn to calm and grounded presence. Loneliness loses its power when attachment is replaced with acceptance. Solitude stops being something to escape and becomes something to respect. When individuals no longer fight being alone, they stop feeling alone even in silence. The mind, once restless, learns to rest. The heart, once dependent, learns to be whole within itself. Human relationships, especially romantic partnerships, are often idealized as the ultimate source of fulfillment. From a young age, many are taught that finding the right partner will complete them, heal their insecurities, and give life lasting meaning. While companionship can bring joy, support, and shared experiences, expecting another person to complete one's emotional or psychological world creates an unhealthy foundation. A partner can walk alongside you in life, but they cannot fill inner gaps that only self-awareness and personal growth can address. When individuals enter relationships seeking completion, they often carry unresolved needs, fears, and insecurities into the partnership. Instead of sharing life, they unconsciously ask the other person to become a source of constant validation and stability. This expectation places an invisible burden on the relationship. Over time, even loving partners may feel overwhelmed by the responsibility of sustaining someone else's sense of self. What begins as closeness can slowly turn into emotional dependence. True companionship thrives when two complete individuals choose to share their lives, not when two incomplete individuals rely on each other to feel whole. Self-completion does not mean perfection. It means having a stable sense of identity that is not easily shaken by external circumstances. When a person knows who they are, understands their values, and accepts their imperfections, they bring clarity and balance into a relationship. This balance allows love to grow without fear of loss or abandonment. As life progresses, circumstances inevitably change. Health issues, aging, career pressures, or loss can alter the dynamics of even the strongest partnerships. When one's happiness is entirely tied to the presence or behavior of a partner, these changes can feel devastating. The absence of a partner, whether temporary or permanent, may leave a person feeling lost or empty. This emotional collapse does not occur because the relationship mattered too much, but because it carried the responsibility of providing inner stability. Developing self-completion creates resilience. It allows individuals to face change without losing their emotional footing. A self-aware person can grieve loss without losing their identity and can adapt to solitude without feeling incomplete. This does not reduce the value of a partner. Instead, it deepens appreciation. The relationship becomes a source of companionship rather than a lifeline. In later years, this inner completeness becomes particularly important. Aging often brings increased vulnerability and unpredictability. Partners may face health challenges or periods of separation due to circumstances beyond control. Those who have cultivated inner stability navigate these transitions with greater calm and dignity. They draw strength from within rather than depending solely on another person to provide emotional balance. Self-completion also allows for healthier communication. When individuals are not driven by emotional dependency, they express needs without fear and listen without defensiveness. Conflicts become opportunities for understanding rather than threats to security. The relationship space becomes safer, more respectful, and more authentic. Another important aspect of self-completion is acceptance of solitude. Even within partnerships, moments of emotional or physical distance are natural. When individuals are comfortable with themselves, these moments do not feel threatening. Instead, they provide support. Unity is for reflection and renewal. The relationship benefits from this balance as both individuals maintain their individuality while remaining connected. Expecting a partner to complete you often leads to disappointment because no one can meet such an expectation consistently. Humans are imperfect, evolving, and limited by their own struggles. When this reality is accepted, relationships become more compassionate. Love becomes less about possession and more about presence. Understanding that a partner can share life but not complete it is an act of emotional maturity. It shifts the focus from dependency to partnership, from fear to trust, and from expectation to appreciation. In this understanding, relationships become spaces of mutual growth rather than emotional survival. Much of life is spent preparing for visible responsibilities. People work hard to build financial security, acquire assets, and plan for a stable future. While these efforts are important, they often overshadow a quieter yet more critical form of preparation. Emotional readiness, mental resilience, and inner maturity are rarely given the same attention. As a result, many reach later stages of life financially stable but emotionally unsettled. True preparedness extends beyond money. It includes the ability to face change, uncertainty, and loss with balance and composure. Financial planning addresses external needs, but emotional preparation addresses internal reality. Money can provide comfort, access, and security, yet it cannot guarantee peace of mind. Without emotional maturity, even financial stability may fail to prevent anxiety, dissatisfaction, or fear. Emotional preparedness equips individuals with the ability to adapt when plans change and expectations are challenged. It strengthens the inner framework that supports well-being regardless of circumstances. As people age, life naturally becomes more unpredictable. Health may fluctuate. Routines may shift, and familiar roles may dissolve. Without emotional preparation, these transitions can feel overwhelming. Individuals who have not developed inner resilience may struggle with a sense of loss or irrelevance. Emotional maturity allows one to view these changes not as personal failures, but as natural phases of life. This perspective reduces stress and fosters acceptance. Preparing emotionally involves learning to manage one's thoughts and reactions. It requires awareness of emotional patterns and the ability to respond rather than react. Over time, this self-regulation creates stability. When external factors change, emotionally prepared individuals remain grounded. They acknowledge challenges without being consumed by them and maintain clarity even in uncertainty. Another essential aspect of emotional preparation is learning to let go. Many individuals hold tightly to identities formed through work, social roles, or responsibilities. As these roles evolve or diminish, clinging to them can cause distress. Emotion. Preparedness allows for graceful transitions. It supports the understanding that worth is not tied to productivity or status, but to being present and aware. Relationships also benefit from emotional readiness. When individuals prepare emotionally, they approach connections with empathy rather than expectation. They communicate more effectively and accept others as they are. This reduces conflict and strengthens bonds. In later years, emotionally mature individuals experience fewer relational disappointments because they do not rely on others to regulate their emotions. Inner preparation also encourages self-compassion. As physical abilities change, emotionally prepared individuals respond with patience rather than frustration. They recognize limitations without self-criticism. This compassion supports mental health and promotes a sense of dignity. Instead of resisting aging, they adapt with understanding. Emotional preparation often includes cultivating reflective practices such as mindfulness, contemplation, or spiritual inquiry. These practices help individuals connect with deeper values beyond material success. They provide perspective and meaning, especially when external achievements no longer define daily life. This inner connection becomes a source of comfort and direction. Those who focus solely on financial preparation may find themselves well-resourced but emotionally isolated. In contrast, individuals who invest in emotional readiness experience a more bala, NCE and fulfilling later life. They are less driven by fear of loss and more guided by acceptance. Their sense of peace does not fluctuate with external conditions. Preparing emotionally is not a one-time effort. It is an ongoing process. It requires attention, honesty, and willingness to grow. The rewards of this preparation are subtle yet profound. Emotional readiness allows individuals to face life's later stages with confidence, adaptability, and quiet strength, ensuring that stability comes not only from what is owned, but from what is understood within. As life advances, many of the external supports people rely on begin to change or fade. Physical strength may decline, professional roles may come to an end, and social recognition may lessen. In such moments, external achievements and possessions lose their ability to provide reassurance. What remains most reliable is inner strength, the mental and emotional stability that allows a person to remain centered despite shifting circumstances. Inner strength is not loud or visible, yet it becomes the most dependable form of security when everything else feels uncertain. Inner strength is built gradually through experience, self-reflection, and conscious response to challenges. It develops when individuals face difficulties without surrendering to fear or bitterness. Each moment of resilience, patience, and acceptance adds to this internal foundation. Unlike external security, which depends on conditions beyond control, our strength is self-sustaining. It remains available regardless of health, wealth, or social presence. As people age, unpredictability becomes more frequent. Health concerns may arise unexpectedly, routines may be disrupted, and independence may feel threatened. Without inner strength, these changes can trigger anxiety and helplessness. With inner strength, they are met with composure. A strong inner core does not deny difficulty. It acknowledges reality without being overwhelmed by it. This ability to remain emotionally steady allows individuals to make thoughtful decisions even under pressure. Inner strength also shapes how individuals interpret their experiences. Those without it may see challenges as signs of failure or loss of value. Those with it understand that change does not diminish worth. They recognize that identity is not tied to physical ability or social role, but to character and awareness. This understanding protects self-respect and prevents emotional collapse during vulnerable phases of life. Another dimension of inner strength is the ability to find meaning beyond external validation. When praise, attention, or recognition decrease, individuals grounded in inner strength continue to feel purposeful. They derive satisfaction from simple routines, reflection, and presence rather than constant stimulation. This shift reduces dependence on others for affirmation and fosters quiet confidence. Inner strength also influences relationships. Individuals who possess it do not seek constant reassurance or emotional rescue. They interact with others from a place of stability rather than need. This makes relationships healthier and more respectful. Even when companionship is limited, emotionally strong individuals do not feel abandoned. Their sense of connection extends inward, allowing them to remain balanced in solitude. Facing mortality is another area where inner strength becomes essential. As awareness of life's impermanence grows, fear may arise. Inner strength helps individuals confront this reality with acceptance rather than denial. It allows them to reflect on life with honesty and peace, reducing regret and unresolved emotional conflict. This acceptance brings a sense of closure and calm that external comforts cannot provide. Inner strength is also closely tied to emotional regulation. Strong individuals do not suppress emotions, nor are they ruled by them. They allow feelings to arise and pass without losing clarity. This emotional flexibility supports mental well-being and prevents prolonged distress. Over time, this balance becomes a source of deep inner security. The development of inner strength requires intentional effort. It involves cultivating awareness, practicing patience, and embracing responsibility for one's emotional state. These practices may not produce immediate results, but their impact compounds over time. Eventually, inner strength becomes as a quiet companion, offering reassurance in moments of uncertainty. When external supports fade, inner strength remains. It does not depend on circumstances, approval, or physical ability. It provides a stable foundation that allows individuals to age with dignity, clarity, and peace. This internal security ensures that even in the absence of external certainty, life continues to feel grounded and meaningful. Let me close with this powerful reminder: old age is not a curse, it is graduation. A stage where life tests whether you learned its deepest lesson. Nothing outside you is permanent, but what you build within can never be taken away. Live in such a way that when people are around, you enjoy them. But when they are not, you are still complete, peaceful, and free. Thank you.